All right, everybody, welcome. We'll give everybody a few minutes to join. This is the OKD working group. If you are here for any other working group meeting, I apologize. Please check your links. We've had a bit of a collision with the operator framework in the past, but I think we've cleared that up. So again, in the chat, there is a link. Please add your name into the attendee list. And I'm going to close that. Leave that meeting. Too many meetings going on. All right, so let's start driving today. I know we have Christian here today, but Vadim is out sick, so just going to catch up with a few people and see where we're at in terms of events. We have still coming up again the KubeCon EU event on March 30th, and Christian will have, I think, 15 to 20 minutes to talk about OKD and Fedora CoreOS there, depending on how tightly packed I put that schedule. And the same will happen again, but a little bit extended. I think you get 25 minutes at Red Hat Summit. The other thing is, if any of you are coming to Red Hat Summit, we have a space now confirmed in Community Central, which is the community part of the Red Hat Summit Expo floor. And we have a booth for OKD and Fedora CoreOS set up. And so far, Antonio, Dusty, and Christian, with a little sub-in from myself, because I have a couple other booths to maintain too, will be staffing that. And if you are coming to Red Hat Summit, please let me know, and we will see if we can get you an Expo Pass if you don't have one. But those are very hard to come by too. So I'm just hoping that a few of you will also be already coming or speaking at Red Hat Summit and can slide in and do a little booth duty. So that's the quick update there. So I'm going to just slide down and make Christian do a quick OKD update, where we're at.
All right. I'm just reading Neil. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to meeting you at Summit then. Well, we had our last meeting just 1 week ago, so not that much time has passed since, but we've made some more progress on our CI work. There is the branching, the 4.5 branching happening hopefully later today. And after that, we will probably have most of these CI platforms, or most of the platforms, working again on CI. There's been some hiccups. We've added an etcd operator, and the switch over to that has caused some failures in the past few weeks. But I think we sorted that out, and the switch over is supposed to happen tonight. We've been working on getting all the blockers done. There's been some progress on the Azure fixed disk and upload problem. So hopefully very soon we'll have disks, or we'll have images on Azure. That'll be nice for the automated installer-driven install. There's nothing really big right now to show off. I really do hope by the next meeting we'll have much more to show after the 4.5 branching happened, and we'll still be building off of master, but it'll be the 4.5 master at that time.
How does upgrades work from the transition to the operator?
So essentially, you'll just get a new payload in the new machine OS. Well, not the machine OS content, but the new payload will contain an extra image, and all the configuration will sort of be taken over. I know that I'm not really familiar with the details on that. I know that has caused that handover of the essentially, yeah, the MCO used to manage etcd, or is still managing at etcd in all clusters right now, but it'll be handed over to that etcd cluster, to that etcd operator. I'm unfamiliar with the details, but it's supposed to work, so we'll yeah, I'll check up on that. Actually, that's a very interesting question.
And that changes 4.4 to 4.5.
Yeah, I think that operator is landing in 4.5.
Okay.
Or I actually it may be landing in 4.4. I kind of live in master, which is why I don't know those details. I'll follow up on that, and I'll have an answer to that question next time.
Understood. Is there any update on when the ironic images from Metal Cubed will be moved into the either 4.4 or 4.5 installer?
Oh, could you repeat that? Sorry.
It's for bare metal IPI. Victor, I think it was Victor, had said that right now the ironic images that the installer will try to pull are stubs, and that
that was probably Vadim, and I still don't have an answer to that, but we'll definitely, because bare metal isn't really our focus right now, but it's sort of the next big thing we want to tackle after all the all the cloud platforms we sort of try to support in the product work in OKD as well. We want to tackle that, yeah, and because we have some downstream images for the cluster, for the bare metal things, we'll need to make sure that we get them from upstream. I think it's we're taking some images from RDO there, from the OpenStack community. I'm not 100% sure. Another question I will follow up on. Bare metal is definitely one thing we want to tackle very soon now. The difficulty sort of for me with that is it's running on a different CI system, so I don't really see that a lot. But yeah, I will follow up on that. Thanks for taking notes, Diane.
I'm assigning it to Vadim. But he probably won't notice this until you mention it. But yeah, so we'll do that.
Yeah, I don't think he's on the call today.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's out sick. He messaged me earlier today. He has no voice and yeah, throat, just a sore throat. So yeah,
half of our IT organization was taken out by a virus. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, oh man, you're making me worry.
Yeah. Y'all should work at home remotely.
Yes, we should.
That would be the ideal.
We're still in the dark ages when it comes to that.
Oh well.
We're slowly seeing the light.
So Neil, you said you were coming to Red Hat Summit.
Yep.
And Shri
I'm working on getting my passes by getting our passes. But it is definitely planned that at least that Sri and I will be going to Red Hat Summit.
Okay. And Christian is, I know Christian is, I'm just putting the asterisks is, asterisks equals.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting many of you in person there. I just booked my flight and hotel today, so now it's a done deal. I'll be there as well.
Yay, I'll finally get to meet you in person.
Yeah. It's been a long time, just chatting and video conferencing. So yeah.
Well, that would be great. And so what the other thing that I would offer, because Dado is also a member of OpenShift Commons, the OpenShift Commons member booth is going to be in Community Central as well. So if you wanted to have like a half an hour of time to give a presentation in the booth there, we'd love to have you do something, Neil, there. And it's really random. It's whatever members show up. I had a schedule and I just give everybody half an hour and they get the booth to pontificate about whatever they want.
Well, that probably won't be me talking about, but Dan Axelrod, who's also from Datto, who's also in this call, is also coming with me to Summit and might actually have interesting things to say. So we'll see.
Okay, well, Dan Axelrod.
Yep.
All right. I'm just putting your name down here and just for you.
Thank you.
I know there. Cool. All right. All the lurkers are going to get outed today. There you go. And let me just go back to this. So are there other things that people have questions about? I know there's a lot of you on there, and I just noticed the UMich guy. Are at the University of Michigan, are you guys testing OKD now or on VMware? Have you gotten?
Yeah, so I've been testing those, and I actually have a question in regards to scripts for UPI. So vSphere, obviously UPI. I've been writing a lot of scripts for GovC and whatnot to get the configuration going, even to generate the running of the installer to get the ignition files, etc. Is there, or can we create in the repository a installation scripts folder and start uploading stuff, or what would be the best way to think about providing some scripts to support UPI for folks who maybe just want to have some easy ways to get their UPI stuff up?
So the way we test UPI in our CI infrastructure, you can actually find Docker images in those platform-specific folders. I think dockerfile.upi or something they're called. So that's mostly how we test that. So we download, Matchbox and all the UPI-specific things in those Docker, in those Docker images, and then run those in an automated manner. Maybe that is what you're looking for. I don't really know how you would provide sort of customized configs for your specific setups.
Well, not for our specific setups, but to provide the ability of other folks to have an easy way to get UPI provisioned, anyone else who wanted to test, right? So providing scripts that would allow folks to get their OKD cluster up quickly without having to manually type in each step, as it were, or run each individual govc command, etc. So being able to provide that to the greater community. Is that clear?
That's pretty
yeah, clear. I think that is sort of the that is kind of what we try to achieve with the installer, with the IPI install. So I know that at Red Hat we're really focused on getting the IPI stuff out for the fully automated setup and install.
I was told, maybe this is incorrect information, but I was told that vSphere was not going to get a lot of attention in the future in terms of automated install, and that it was going to stay UPI. Is that not correct? Is vSphere eventually going to get more attention?
I don't know. I think that is the thing that you could find on the OpenShift roadmap.
Yeah, on the roadmap, we've looked at all of the slides for the roadmap, and it actually, vSphere is listed in the UPI like for versions up to like 4.5 and later. At least the roadmap as it was published like 3 months ago or so that I saw a slide for it. So that's what's fueling this, is the notion that My understanding is that it's going to be UPI for the foreseeable future.
So usually the way it's been is we provide in version X it'll be UPI, and then version Y will be IPI, or maybe 2 versions later it'll be IPI. So usually the UPI is the first step, and then those things are fully automated in a later release or 2 releases after.
I see.
So what might be impairing the development of IPI for vSphere is that the interface libraries for C and Go are not free software. They're not open source. So bundling them and including them in the installer is a no-go. Go VMI and a couple of the other libraries are proprietary and they don't have source code available. So building and shipping them is going to be problematic. PyVomi actually partially relies on the proprietary C libraries, which is a problem in itself. There is a version of it that doesn't use the C library, and that's for Python, and that kind of works, but it's far more limited. For doing all the really crazy stuff with vSphere, you really need the full SDK. So if somebody's got a good relationship with VMware, it'd be great if they were being poked with sticks to open source all of their SDKs, the VDDK as well as the VMI interface, the VMI libraries and stuff like that.
Okay, so I have a decent relationship with VMware. If you wrote that up in an email, what that request is, I could poke.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
But I think I want to go back to Jamie's original suggestion. Is there any reason why we shouldn't create a folder in the repo to hold some of these, community installation scripts for people to use during the testing period with some sort of general surgeon's warning on them? Or is that just extra work? And I guess the question's for Christian. Is there an
not at all. What I really meant to say was that it's probably not going to be my focus to do that, to facilitate all of that, but anything the community can come up with in that regard would be super nice to have, I'd say.
Okay, so just gonna poke over here and go into, do we put it in the community folders here, or do we want it over in some place like in Origin?
So I wouldn't say not Origin, maybe in the OKD repository. We already have we have the documentation in the OKD repository as well. So if that's kind of gripped, maybe in the OKD repository, or maybe we'll have to, I'm not sure if Clayton wants those scripts in there, but if he doesn't, we might just create another repository for that. So I'll follow up on the best. I don't think the community it could be in the community repository as well. I'm not. Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on that.
Yeah, neither do I. That's why I'm kind of asking here. So if you can follow up, that would be great. And then let's go back here.
And I'm more than happy to put some effort into rounding up those scripts and getting other folks to contribute, because I think that would be a helpful thing for adoption overall.
Yeah,
likewise.
I think you're very right about that, because that was going to be my open discussion conversation today, if we had time. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to put this in as a to-do for you, Christian, to talk to Clayton about where. Lorbus.
Yeah, I can actually just ask him what the plan for vSphere IPI would be as well, if that isn't in the roadmap, and maybe he has a comment on that. I'll ask him about that too.
Yeah. Also, I'm sure a lot of people are finding, myself included, that a bare metal UPI or any kind of UPIs doesn't get right on the first try, so it's taking a while. So any sort of scripts definitely help speed up the testing process, even if they're not official installer stuff.
Right, Steve, you would probably be a good person to talk to about bare metal. I think you've done more bare metal than any other one here, especially because you need that too for your university instance, right?
Yeah, we're working off Proxmox, which is no way going to be supported by the installer, so it's basically bare metal at that point. But definitely.
Cool.
Oh, well,
Bare metal. All right. So the other part of before I go on to my topic,
I think, Diane, before you start off with your topic, I think one topic that that the people are talking in the chat about already is the CentOS CoreOS thing, which is super interesting, I think. And if we could hear an update on that, that'd be great.
all right. Who's the point person for that?
Hey, this is James. Can
apparently
you hear me?
that's James and Leedson. Sorry, I butchered your name. I did.
Hey, this is James. Can you hear me?
Glayton here. Glayton here. Can you hear me as well?
Gleason and James Cassell. I guess that's what we're saying. Gills.
Yeah, we heard both of you.
So I built the CentOS CoreOS just on my own. I basically rebuilt the OpenShift RPMs, and then on top of that, I also rebuilt the latest Ignition. I haven't actually attempted to install OKD on top of it, but my thought is if I can make that work, then that would give the RCOS folks a nice path to switch to Ignition v3. I don't know what the hang up is there, but at least that might prove that it could work. But at the very least, the thing boots and it'll take Ignition v3, and it's based on CentOS.
Glayton here. So at this point, there is no clear picture of whether we will have CentOS CoreOS. But regardless, your work is remarkable, and I might have a place to put it while CentOS figures out what's supposed to happen with CoreOS. So look at me on the Kubernetes Slack. I usually hang out on the OpenShift dev channel. So look for me over there, and let's sync our clocks and work out what we need to do to get almost official OKD on CentOS CoreOS. Okay.
Sounds good.
Well done.
Yeah.
Amazing. There was a there. I heard a and that was probably Neil.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little waffly about the thought of having a CentOS CoreOS. I mean, aside from the fact that pretty much every time CentOS does something like this, all the oxygen gets sucked out of the Fedora-based effort, which does not make me a very happy camper in the first place. But also because CentOS is a bad place to try to develop new technology, build on top of new technologies, which is part of what I hope OKD's mission is, rather than just playing catch up to OCP, is that eventually being the driver of new container-related technology usage and development. And CentOS is the wrong place for that, because in most cases, RHEL doesn't get anything until Fedora proves it out first. And CentOS is not going to be a place where that kind of stuff will happen unless it's already happened in Fedora. And then the catch-22 is, well, then does that mean we have to wait 3+ years before the next Fedora branching before we start even getting to play with these things in CentOS RHEL, because nobody's testing them in a reasonable fashion or using them in any production-like quality with Fedora as the base. So, that's part of the reason why I'm a little iffy about having a CentOS CoreOS in the first place for the OKD use case. Not saying completely no to the idea of a CentOS CoreOS, but I worry that'll have the same destructive effect that it did for OpenStack and for OpenShift 3X that happened in the past. It's not a good thing to keep sucking the oxygen out of the Fedora project and destroying all the use cases that people would be using them for upstream or like new feature development.
So, well, this is what I think about that. I think it's amazing that James built this thing. I just, when I look at the CentOS resources that are assigned to working on anything CentOS related, they're pretty much non-existent. People who, other than James doing this out of the amazement of and goodness of your heart in your spare time, and I look at the Fedora one, and that's where we're putting where all the resources are that are working on this. And it is the driver of the new technology development. It's where we're doing Ignition 3 work. It's almost like CentOS CoreOS is downstream from Fedora CoreOS in a weird way. I understand historically the threat that CentOS might have been to Fedora, but I think we're coming down a different path with Fedora CoreOS and OKD this time around. But that's my commitment is is almost Fedora first, and everything else is fine if you have resources. But I don't see the CentOS engineering team throwing major resources on doing anything with CentOS CoreOS, as they have a number of other tasks on their plate at the time. I could be speaking, but James?
Gleason here. So I agree with Diane's point of view, and I believe that the end goal of these working groups is to have OKD released, right? And as far as we know, for 3.0 or 3.x, CentOS was one of the supported platforms for releasing OKD. So my understanding is that as part of our work, shall be CentOS CoreOS. We will know whether OKD works or not and what are the missing points. So until CentOS figure out a way to test and release OKD using CoreOS, these workaround that James created might be, something enough to let us know if pursuing for an official CentOS CoreOS is something worth or not.
Again, I'm fine with the existence of a CentOS CoreOS. I'm just worried that, precedent has been each time something like this comes up, the oxygen gets sucked out of the equivalent Fedora effort. Like that's happened with OpenStack, that happened with OpenShift 2 and 3x, that is happening with Overt right now. And like I really don't want history to repeat itself again, because every time that happens, like it means that fewer people are working on the proper upstream features and helping integrate them in Fedora. They only come in just at the last second to integrate these things so that they're in the branching for RHEL. Not like anyone else in the community knows when the branching happens, but like when that happens, and whole surge of random shit starts happening, and that's the kind of stuff that I just want to avoid. So that's why I'm stating that, because it's something that is a fear for me when it comes to this.
I think there's probably less risk of that given that our starting point here is Fedora CoreOS. That, especially given the tight coupling now between the 4.x family of OpenShift and the operating system, whereas with 3.x, the operating system was just a place to run it, right? And so if you were running CentOS or you were running Fedora, was less impactful to how you ran it, whereas now they're much more tightly coupled.
Right, but see, the reason why I'm concerned is because a CentOS CoreOS will inevitably look very, very much like RHEL CoreOS. And that tight coupling you said makes it a lot easier for people to just retarget their focus. So, like, the tighter the coupling is, the more I worry about it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're worried about it, because it means that we'll think about it and be conscious of it. I don't think personally that it's that it's anything that's going to stop OKD and Fedora CoreOS collaboration, and our release cycles are going to be and this is Diane's opinion, I think most of you share it, is that the release cycle is going to be test on Fedora CoreOS first, and release, and then everything else follows. So as we continue to tightly couple OKD and Fedora CoreOS, and I hopefully the commitment that I have and will continue is that it's the collaboration is between OKD and Fedora CoreOS, and that all the other OSs have to bring resources to the table, like James has done, and Gelson is hoping to find an incubation space there. But my commitment to you all, and I think is to really continue the collaboration tightly with the Fedora community and make sure Fedora CoreOS is a success too.
That's awesome, Diane. Thanks.
Okay. So hopefully I can add that now. Anything else, Christian, before I bring up the hot topic of the day that I wanted to talk about that everyone's going to argue with me with?
Maybe just a comment on CentOS and the upcoming CentOS Stream thing. So yeah, CentOS Stream I think hasn't materialized yet, but it will at some point in the future. And for that, it may make more sense even for Red Hat to look at creating an OKD or a CoreOS version of that stream. But yeah, other than that, just sort of as a side note, that CentOS Stream will be upstream from RHEL, while CentOS, the standard CentOS is downstream, which is why it does not make a lot of sense for us to put an effort there, because changes will never really trickle down naturally into anything else. It's sort of the last, the last thing, the most downstream thing here. Yeah, but that's all from me.
Yeah, it's almost like an almost enterprise-ready version of Fedora. It's not quite RHEL, but it's in between RHEL and Fedora.
It's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
stream slide into RHEL.
Exactly. Sort of, you'll have a commit of the CentOS stream that'll be sort of equivalent to a RHEL version, actually. Or that was at least the concept I was told last time. It's a bit difficult. But that's sort of what I know.
All right. Are there any other questions in the from people who are lurking? There's a bunch of you lurking. Any other further testing work or features you found? Issues? Okay. I'm going to unmute everybody in case you wanted to talk and couldn't hear me. Not. I wanted to bring up a topic because I keep getting asked it, and I know that it's not an easy topic, and it's this one here. We all.
You and me both, Diane.
Yeah. So for my education, and Christian and I were going back and forth just before the call about these two, because I get asked this question: are we planning as a community to work on creating some form of, and I'm calling it mini OKD, or just create a VM or something that will make it really simple for people to download this and install it on locally and start using OKD? What is the thought on with this few group of people here about this? And I'm going to leave it at that, because I'm trying to get my messaging for when people ask me the question correct, and I would just like to hear. And I know that, and Christian, maybe you could go first and explain what you explained to me earlier today.
Sure. So there was the question on the mailing list again last week with regard to the one node setup of OKD4, and I linked an enhancement proposal that got merged that was written by Clayton, and I think that sort of that's sort of the stance we take, or the architects take on it right now. So it's a long-term goal to sort of get there, but the OpenShift code base isn't really ready for it at the moment, especially a few of the core operators don't support just having one master node. I mean, there's etcd, there's the machine config daemon, or the machine config operator, and all of those don't support that yet. So there's quite a few big changes needed to support that. In the code-ready containers use case, it's sort of done by disabling a few of the operators. I think the machine config operator goes degraded in the CRC, in the code-ready container. So that's not really a thing that is, I mean, a lot of people don't like CRC, but that's probably the only thing we're gonna get for now. We could aim at creating an OKD version of the CRC. I'm not sure what more value we would get. CRC already is free and for everybody to use. But yeah, I don't really have any strong opinions on that. I know it's sort of a gap we have. We don't have anything like Minikube or Minishift in the past for OKD4. And I don't really have a good answer to that at the moment.
So at least a couple of things with CRC. The first thing is that you have to have a Red Hat account and have things set up properly so you can generate a pull secret to use. Not everyone is going to be equipped to be able to pull that off.
You don't have to do that anymore.
You don't? Oh.
No, that was merged, a couple of months ago, right, Christian? The ability to deploy without needing a pull secret these days?
Yeah, but that only works on the FCOS branch.
I would assume that a mini OKD would also only work.
Yeah, but right now there is no, CRC doesn't have an OKD variant right now. That's the problem. Yes. So right now CRC requires a Red Hat account, and because it is only going to deploy OCP, and actually I really do think it'd be super valuable to be able to have a CRC that does FCOS and OKD, because OKD is moving further along than OCP is, and it'd be useful to be able to just try new things super easily.
Right. So if there is, if the community demands an OKD version of CRC, we'll certainly look at it. I think it's if that's a valid thing, and you're right, you need a Red Hat account right now for the OCP CRC version, and well, the only thing is we won't get to it, let's say, before May, even like starting developing it, at least not me, because we'll need to get up the OKD4 GA version before, and then we can sort of look at creating a CRC version of it. But that's not one of the release criteria we have right now, and those are more pressing at the moment. But if you guys say we want that, we'll definitely tackle it, but it won't happen before May. That's kind of the catch here.
I think that's fine. It's I think going to be a prerequisite to make it easier for broader consideration of the OKD branch of Kubernetes for more people, because it is the main down point when people talk about it. It's like, okay, so how do I just give it a shot? And it's like, well, do you have a monster machine and some magical things that you can tell the OpenShift installer to run,
or an unlimited limit on your credit card,
or a platinum credit card? So not having to require all those things to just make it so that people can give it a shot and evaluate it on the mere fact of the features that exist at present, that is a super valuable thing. I mean, yes, it's going to be a memory hog. It's going to be kind of a resource sink, and it's going to kind of suck compared to just deploying it properly in production. But I think that's sort of the point. It helps people like see what it's going to be like, not without requiring it to be like so full-fledged whatevers. I mean, I would love to have single node whatevers. That makes CRC actually simpler and easier, but the existing CRC, I don't know how difficult it would be to adapt to OKD, but I feel like it wouldn't be too terribly awful. But doing the resources for it happening after GA, that's fine. Like, I mean, I can kind of wait. At some point, I will get an OpenStack resource, and I will rebuild my over cluster and then deploy it everywhere, and we'll see how it goes. But like for all the other people who'd like to try OKD, I think that's a really valuable thing to have, because Minikube and Minishift keep getting brought up. There are people still deploying Minishift and trying out OpenShift that way, and they're getting a poorer experience because that's not what OpenShift looks like at all anymore.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's true.
So just pause for a minute, and just for Diane's education, in the very old days, OpenShift 2 days and OpenShift 1, we had a VM that we just sat up there on the origin page. Is there any possibility of just creating a virtual machine that had it running, or is that just going to be too huge and too clunky?
It's technically possible. I mean, the real kick is making it so that the FCOS machine on first boot, when it starts up, is automatically configured to pull and set up OKD. That's pretty much it. Everything else is mostly simpatico. It's once you get past that point, everything gets pretty easy.
Yeah, it's been a couple months since I tried this, but if you look at the GitHub Code Ready single node cluster repo, that's actually how you build the bundle that Code Ready containers then will use. So you can build your own image. In theory, if you built your installer from source and set the release image to point to one of the OKD releases, that's probably most of what you would need to do. It's a little bit of work to do it, and like I said, I haven't tried to redo this in a couple months, but I had built code-ready containers from source a couple of times and had it running with an image that I built locally.
I think the other thing is that the CRC needs to be adapted to be okay with no pull secret, because it does make you supply one when you do it. But that could actually be adapted from the changes that were made for the OpenShift installer as well.
Yeah, because it's the installer that requires that. So if you built the installer from the OKD source, you'd have to set it, the tags for libvirt, and then set the release image before you build the installer to point to one of the OKD releases. I think that would work. I might give it a try this weekend if I'm not still working on some Quarkus conversions from Spring Boot.
Oh,
I mean, that sounds interesting. I'd love to try that out too, because I think it actually should, like, the current state of affairs for OKD right now is that once it's up and running, it works pretty okay. So and the installer, the OKD installer, is mostly okay when it's setting things up. So it might just kind of work with some small adaptations.
If I get a chance to give it a try, I'll post something if it works. If not, we'll never speak of it again.
No, Charo. Otherwise, if you do that, it'll never get better.
yeah. So Charo, if you can try that out, maybe I couldn't capture exactly all the threads of everything you were saying you had to do to get that thing built, but and so it's now just listed as Charo's suggestion. So that's, that sounds interesting. Just trying to figure out, like, because we keep asking people to do these tests and do all this stuff, and we're going to go into GA eventually, but having something that's simple for them to to quickly get up and test and is a decent experience as opposed to them, as Neil said, trying to run mini shift and 3 point whatever. If we can supply that, that would be great. And that's why I figured I knew we didn't have a full meeting today, and I figured I'd bring it up again, just because of that going on. So yeah, if you can figure out a way to do that, that would be great. But the problem with that is that every time we do a new release, we need to be able to rebuild that image. And I know this was the problem in the old days of OpenShift for Origin, is that the evangelist team, dating back to Christian Rama and Steve Pusti, would build the VM for us, and we'd have to upload it with each release. So that the thing, what I don't want to do is make more work for people, but it also has to be something that's repeatable. So Charo, if what you're doing is a complete hack and can't be repeated for each release, then maybe it's a nice to have for Red Hat Summit, so people can have something to take away and play with just once, but not repeatable.
Yeah, if what I'm thinking of will work, it should be both repeatable and automatable.
Okay, I like those two words. And I probably spelt them wrong. The other thing were the two words you said earlier, in passing about converting Spring stuff to Quarkus. So you must tell me more in Slack about that.
Oh yeah,
I'm actually curious too.
Yeah.
It turns out once you get over the curve, it's actually pretty straightforward. Most of there are analogs within MicroProfile for just about everything that these Spring Boot apps were doing.
Cool. So once you've got that figured out, I'm going to make you give a briefing on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I am not joking because I have all my briefings here, and I'm just going to go put you in now with something, Charo. And
yeah, actually, I will be preparing some materials to teach it internally to our Java development group. It probably won't be until May or June before I do that, but I've got what I did is I wrote an app in Spring Boot that's representative of the types of apps that these folks write, and then forked that off in a Spring Boot branch, and then converted it to Quarkus so that they can see the same code, Spring Boot branch to Quarkus branch, what the differences in the code are.
yeah, so I have and we're just going off track here. I have a Quarkus versus Spring Boot. What's the diff? Talk that Debbie was going to do, but maybe combining the two of those, and that would be fun. So anyway,
I'd also love to see this example Spring Boot application that's representative of your thing and seeing how that looks. That'd be cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, the one that I used it's a prototype for something for Old Dominion internally, so I can't put it on GitHub. It's in a private repo. I know.
Well, make another thing that isn't so private.
I'm going to have to do that, yeah, because this is a proprietary rating algorithm that I don't really want to share with Estes or Saia or FedEx.
all right. Well, I'll keep you in mind, and I'll hit you up, and maybe we'll get Marcus to join as well. But I think I'm really thrilled with Quarkus, and I think if we can do more, I think it also probably has a booth somewhere in probably on the Red Hat Summit floor at Expo, that you could do some demos on this as well. So it's sort of top of mind. Is there anything else, Christian, we should be covering off today?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Then I think we may be closing the meeting now, and I'll close all my little pings that are pinging me. and looking at when our next meeting would be, and the master of all things calendars. That would, I think the next one would be March 3rd. Is that correct? In everybody's books and in
Yep.
your Fedora calendar? Someone's asking, could we say something about the status of the OKD docs? Is there anything you have, any updates?
No updates at this time.
Yeah, that is the rub here. We're focusing too much on not too much, but mostly on the code base and getting the GA out. We'll get better.
Yeah, we definitely want to tackle that before we go GA, but right now it's just there's too many other things. It's on the list. It's on the more than just the backlog. It's we'll get there soon, I hope.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, it better be done by GA because it's going to kind of suck not having docs before then.
Yeah, it'll be done by GA. It'll be done. I can't promise it'll be done by beta, but it'll be done by GA.
So what we had asked, if I recall, was of the documentation team is to create on docs.okd.io an OKD preview version of the docs. So in the dropdown there would be a preview one, and I haven't followed up to see where that's at right now. But that was.
I think the PR is still open, awaiting review or changes from the docs person.
Yeah. So I will try and find that. Do you have that PR anywhere handy, Christian?
No, I don't have the link.
I'm gonna find that. If you could find that and share it with me sometime today, I will see what I can do about finding out the status of it. And
so I know Vadim commented on there. I just saw that. I'm not sure I have the link in my history anymore. But yeah, I'll ask Vadim to send it to you.
And Neil is asking Charo if you're coming to Summit.
No, I don't think I am this year.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let you all go and get 8 minutes back of your day, and we will update the meeting. And Christian, you can add to the calendar for March 3rd, and I'll add it in here. And
maybe one more thing. I've set up a calendar on the Fedora calendar thing, FedoCal. I'll just quickly paste the link in the chat in a minute. And I've set up just a regular meeting every 2 weeks, so it should be there forever on the calendar. So you can just import that calendar via iCal. And I've also set up reminders on Slack in a few channels to sort of ping everyone a few minutes before the meeting starts.
So yeah, if you toss that Fedora calendar link in there, that would be great. And I think you sent it out on the mailing list as well already.
Yeah, I think I sent it out on various channels. I also had it configured to send emails, automatically reminders to the working group, Google group. And also, I think the users and dev lists, but apparently the FedoCal thing doesn't support sending to multiple recipients. So for now, it's just sending it out to the OKD working group, Google group.
Perfect. All right. Okay, so now you only get 6 minutes back of your day. But thank you guys.
One last thing.
Yeah, there you go. Go for it.
Somebody. Yeah, drop the Slack channels that you guys monitor. Somebody drop that in a note or something, because that's one thing I haven't attached to. In fact, most time I forget to start Slack.
So for Slack, externally focused is the Kubernetes OpenShift -dev and And there's also OpenShift Commons as well. So, but OpenShift Commons is really a general purpose, and it's really not meant to be technical support. It's more about best practices and sharing lessons learned and things like that. So we try and keep everybody in these two for external facing things.
Perfect.
We could, when we get to GA, and if we get really popular, we could ask for an OKD dev and an OKD user, but I would prefer to keep it all in one. That would be mine. That way you'd get some attention from the Red Hat engineers who are monitoring that as well.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining.